This week, we're sailing up the scenic and historic Rhine River from Amsterdam in the Netherlands to Basel, Switzerland on board the Viking Tialfi. We'll cover everything the Viking River Cruises have to offer, from the food and activities to the wonderful people we meet along the way. We'll discuss how to get the most out of your cruise experience, the types of vacationers who will best enjoy this, and whether it's something we'd do again. Our voyage starts in Amsterdam, where we were supposed to board our ship. But because of a massive sailing festival in the city, Viking called an audible about a month before the trip and started the cruise just south in Rotterdam. Because everyone's travel to Amsterdam had already been confirmed, Viking arranged buses to take everyone to the ship. They made this so easy we had all forgotten this was Plan B. In the early afternoon, we boarded the Viking Tialfi for the first time, where lunch was being served. After a hectic day and a half in Amsterdam, we're finally relaxed and on board our ship. After lunch, we were escorted down to our rooms, where our bags had been delivered. Now that we're on board, let's take a look around and see what the Viking Tialfi has to offer. We booked one of the standard staterooms on the main deck. It was cozy but very comfortable. You really don't spend much time in your rooms on these river cruises anyway. The Viking Tialfi is one of 64 Viking longships. At 443 feet long, it can welcome up to 190 guests, staffed by 53 crew members. The lounge is the heart of the Viking Tialfi. It's where the onboard activities are all held, from music and dancing to informative discussions and lectures. Outside the lounge at the front of the ship was the Aquavit Terrace. Guests could sit here for meals as well, but space was limited and it was first come, first served. One deck below, you have the dining room where all 3 meals were served each day. It was closed outside of mealtime, so I couldn't get any good footage of it. Up top is the sun deck, with tables and chairs for socializing up front. Then towards the back you have the lounge chairs, a putting green, an herb garden, and a shuffleboard court. At the very back of the ship was the only place guests were welcome to smoke. Finally, on the inside, you have the main atrium, where the concierge can be found. Because of the slight change in plans, we have plenty of time to go out and explore Rotterdam after lunch. The ship doesn't leave until 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. Every passenger receives a radio and earpiece so they could connect with whatever tour they were taking that day. The guide would tell you to tune to a certain channel, and just like that, you're connected. This made excursions extremely easy and stress-free. In the maritime hub of Rotterdam, we took a walking tour through old harbors and shipyards, some of which are still functional today. And of course, we had to get the legendary Dutch stroopwafel. They're delicious, especially fresh off the presses. On the ship that evening, the festivities began, starting with the captain's welcome. We'll talk more about them as the week goes on, but the crew was a ton of fun this trip. After that, it's dinner time. Each port offered a specialty menu with local options, prepared by Chef Jelko on board. If none of them sounded appetizing to you, there was an always available menu with safer options like steak or salmon. I told myself I was only allowed to get steak twice the whole trip, and I'm glad I did because every meal was incredible. We relaxed on board for the rest of our day in Rotterdam and spent the evening enjoying the live music offered every night in the lounge. But you never wanted to stay up too late because every day started bright and early. Music and entertainment ended at 11 every night, far earlier than most ocean cruises. The clientele may play a role in that. We sailed overnight to our first stop, the small town of Kinderdijk in the Netherlands, most famous for the field of stunning windmills built in the 1700s to pump water and keep the town from flooding. These windmills are a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and a couple are kept in full operation with permanent residents living inside. This is a badge of honor for local residents, as the waiting period to become a miller is over 10 years. The inside of the windmills were a timeless masterpiece of engineering. Our booked excursion, however, featured the local cheesemaking scene. We visited a local dairy farm who produced the popular Dutch cheese, Gouda. The farmers walked us through the steps, from the milking process to the aging process, and of course, there were samples. Back on board, Captain Stefan gave his nautical talk, a deeper dive into how the ship worked, as well as a look ahead at our journey from a more technical standpoint. He mentioned the locks that we'll pass through further up the river, and I can't wait to check those out. Before every stop, we also received a port talk, an informative briefing on what to expect the following day. We started sailing again in the early afternoon, and just before dinner, we passed under the Embarkation Bridge, marking the unofficial border between the Netherlands and Germany. As much fun as these ports of call are, one of my favorite feelings in the world is just sailing on a ship, watching the world go by. This is going to be a great week. Next stop is Cologne, Germany. A city that I had never thought to seek out in travel suddenly became one of my favorites I had ever visited. To cross the river, we walked by the Locks of Love, several tons of locks couples over the years had secured onto the major railroad bridge in Cologne. My fiancée and I joined the tradition and threw the key into the river. The highlight of this port was the awe-inspiring and reverent Cologne Cathedral, a stunning monument to Christ and a pilgrimage site for many Christians. If this is your kind of thing, there is a reliquary under the church that is not to be missed. Right before lunch, we climbed the 533 steps to reach the top of the steeple and retreated to this gorgeous view of Cologne. The cathedral, with over 300 gargoyles, is a wonder of medieval engineering. Battered by almost a millennium of bombings, dirt, and weathering, it's restored by a team of 100 people today. It's the younger sister of the iconic Notre Dame in Paris. After that climb, we enjoyed a well-deserved traditional German meal at Peter's Brauhaus. We had a longer stay in Cologne than we did most stops, not leaving until dinner time. So we spent the afternoon walking the Riverwalk to the Lindt Chocolate Museum. If you're from the US East Coast, you could think of it like a mini Hershey Park without the rides. We walked away happy and full of sugar. We spent the evening enjoying time on the roof of the ship, playing shuffleboard and mini-golf. It felt great to relax and sail up the Rhine after such an active day of walking and climbing stairs. That evening they held a disco, which in practice wasn't any different than the dance parties they held the other nights. And it also helped clear up any confusion as to the target demographic of river cruises. But we don't want to stay up too late tonight either, because tomorrow might be the day I'm most excited about. Our fourth stop is the medieval Marksburg Castle just outside Koblenz. Built in 1283, when you think of German castles, this is what you have in mind. Our tour guide was incredibly well informed and taught us a ton of cool facts about life back in this castle's heyday. They did have one rule, however: no filming inside the castle, so you'll just have to come see it for yourself. Not only did we get a glimpse back in time through this perfectly restored and maintained castle, but we got a beautiful view of the Rhine River Valley in this peaceful German town. But that's not all this day has to offer. Not even close. We're back on board for lunchtime, where Chef is grilling up some fantastic calamari right in front of us on the Aquavit Terrace. We usually had lunch on land, but we're sailing away shortly before noon. The few lunches we did have on board were really excellent. Today is an unthinkably gorgeous day, and we're going to spend the next 4 hours sailing up the Rhine River, surrounded by countless medieval castles and beautiful rolling vineyards. We'll pass small town after small town, watching centuries of German history pass by from the comfort of our own ship with a drink in our hand. Our cruise director, Marion, will be narrating the tour, pointing out sights, landmarks, and filling the time with facts and stories we would have never otherwise heard. It felt like we were in an IMAX movie, and even narrating this day after the fact invokes wonderful memories of the pure bliss and serenity we felt watching this scenery go by. And when it's all said and done, we'll be docking in the small town of Rudesheim, right outside Frankfurt, just in time for dinner. Around halfway, Chef came up to pass around ice cream for dessert. There were some spots along this journey where we had to stop in our path for admittedly more important cargo ships to pass by, but let me tell you, there is nowhere better in the world to be stuck in a little traffic. You can see here, too, just how strong the current was. As our castle tour comes to an end, we're greeted by the Niederwald monument right outside Rudesheim. This town is a very popular river cruise destination, so parking is at a premium, and we got to watch our captain Stefan put on a parallel parking masterclass with his 443-foot ship right next to one of our sister ships. This town, right under the approach for Frankfurt, is the quintessential charming German town, with cobblestone paths and flower-lined streets. We were here until midnight, then we set sail for Mannheim. On the 5th day, we learned just how incredible this crew is. When booking excursions, we saw both a wine tasting and a Technik museum excursion in the town of Speyer, but both were in the afternoon. We wanted to do both, so we booked the wine tasting and figured we'd just do the Technik museum on our own. But we learned during the port talk the night before that we weren't getting into Speyer until the afternoon, so we couldn't do both. We went to the front desk asking what we should do, and they told us we were actually briefly docking in Mannheim at 10 a.m., which is a 30-minute train ride from Speyer. So we could get off, train to the Technik Museum, and then meet up with the crews in Speyer for the wine tasting. The morning of, before we left, a crew member handed us a customized map they made special for us, showing exactly where to go and how to get there. I was in awe of this over-the-top level of service to accommodate everything we wanted to do. This experience alone is reason enough for me to come back to another Viking cruise. The Technik Museum was a nerd's dream come true. The star of the show was this perfectly preserved Lufthansa 747-200. We had a blast climbing all throughout the plane, including out onto the wing. Who knows if I'll get to do this again? This museum was an awesome tribute to German engineering, especially their rich aviation history. Other highlights included the Dassault Mercure, an aircraft I probably would have never seen in person if it wasn't for this museum. They did have a space exhibit, and of course, I was used to seeing the space race story told from the US perspective, but this was all Soviet. They had ships, cars, and anything else a techie nerd like me would need to lose hours here. Before reuniting with our ship for the afternoon tour, we stopped by the city center of Speyer and checked out their gorgeous 11th century cathedral. With the help of a custom map, we found our way back to the ship where we met up with the afternoon tours. Like I mentioned, our afternoon excursion is a wine and cheese tour at a local castle. It could not be more different than our morning excursion, but that's one of my favorite things about cruises. You can do exactly what you want at every stop, and it doesn't have to make sense to anyone but you. We drove up a mountain west of Speyer to the Hambach Castle, where we got a history of the area as well as a glimpse at the first ever rendition of the German flag. After the tour, we sat down for some local bites and sips of the Riesling wine, the claim to fame for the local wine scene. That night, we were treated to some melt-in-your-mouth beef tenderloin. Then it was time to hit the dance floor. That's our cruise director, Marion, right in the middle of things. He was always on. What a guy. Day 6 started like every other day with a fantastic custom-made omelet from the restaurant on board. By this point, chef knew my order. Today we're headed to the beautiful town of Strasbourg, France. It's a short bus ride from the German coast where we parked to get over to the French side. Right away, Strasbourg looks like a city out of a fairy tale. The center itself is an island surrounded by a canal to give some Venice vibes, and the streets are lined with old buildings, flowers, and cobblestone to transport you right back to the middle of the last millennium. We find the cathedral for our excursion, again climbing to the top of the tower inside through this claustrophobia-inducing spiral staircase. But once on top, as always, the view was worth the effort 1,000 times over. We made the much easier climb down to the main sanctuary of the cathedral, where we found ourselves in awe again at the timeless beauty and majesty of this cathedral. If that big stained glass window feels like the Notre Dame in Paris, well, this is also the Notre Dame Cathedral. There's also this cuckoo clock contraption, but we never saw it go off. After the cathedral tour, we grabbed a table at the renowned Maison Kammerzell restaurant, where we enjoyed a classic European lunch on the street before heading back to the ship. That afternoon on board, the chef held a cooking demonstration for Flammkuchen, a delicious German flatbread with bacon, onions, and cheese. He asked for volunteers, and none other than yours truly jumped at the opportunity. I thought it turned out pretty good. Fortunately for the other passengers, that wasn't the main meal. Instead, the ship threw their German dinner celebration, a medley of classic dishes from the region like bratwurst and sauerkraut. They had a ton of fun with it, and that attitude always resonated with the guests. But despite all this fanfare and good food, this night held something else in store that I was really excited about. We're going to sail through locks tonight, an engineering masterpiece that effectively acts like water elevators for ships. It was flawlessly executed a number of times over by our crew, and I was in awe of the fact that our ship was just lifted up like it was nothing, and you couldn't feel a thing. Just about all the passengers were glued to the railing, watching the whole thing unfold. Sometimes we had to wait in line, but each lock passing took about 20 minutes once it was our turn. After that vertical intermission, we're back on our way up the Rhine. We were treated to live entertainment every night, but tonight's was for sure the best. Our cruise director, Marion, man of many talents, put on a concert for us.
Let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be.
And after that, the party really got started.
Do you? Well, it goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major lift, the baffled king composing. Hallelujah.
After one more serenade from Marion and another lock passage for good measure, it's off to bed. It's sad and hard to believe that we only have one more full day together on this boat. We woke up on day 7 in Breisach, Germany, near Colmar, France. We have 2 excursions today to try and make the most out of it. We'll be starting off with a World War II guided bus tour of the region, then in the afternoon, we'll head deep into the Black Forest. The World War II tour took us into Colmar, France, namesake of the Colmar pocket in the war. Territorial disputes meant that the Alsace region especially was torn apart, almost like a civil war during this time. We visited a museum in the small, quiet town of Turkheim. Yes, a German-sounding city name in France. There's a lot of shared culture in this region. It was far from the main point of this tour, but I fell in love with these small, quiet countryside towns. Everything felt so peaceful and friendly here, and every church is one of the most beautiful you've ever seen. Our bus tour continued up north to Memorial Hill 351, a monument to the American 21st Corps. In this history, we also see the beautiful French countryside, covered with vineyards as far as the eye could see. The bus tour took us through the town of Ostheim to the Aldi Murphy Memorial, a somber end to the morning. This was the site of his famous one-man stand. We went back on board for one final lunch before getting back off the ship and exploring the town of Breisach. There was a stunning church on top of a hill overlooking the town and the water, and we knew we had to climb up to check it out. It felt like a mini Mont Saint-Michel in France. There was a wedding going on here today, so we couldn't stick around too long. Just like that, it's time for the last excursion of the trip. We get in the bus for about a 90-minute drive deep into the Black Forest. We stop at a day trip site near Hinterzarten, where you can choose from a hike, a chapel tour, glassmaking, and a baking class. We picked the hike and enjoyed time in the lush Black Forest, but came back in plenty of time to take advantage of some of the other activities. At risk of sounding like a broken record, I feel like I was whisked directly into an old fairy tale. I couldn't get enough of the peacefulness, beauty, and serenity in this region. What those small towns had in classical and medieval charm, the Black Forest had in pure natural beauty. I also don't think I'd ever seen a cuckoo clock in action before this stop. We got a glimpse at a confectioner making a Black Forest cake before saying our goodbyes to the region and getting back on the bus back to the ship. On board, it was time for the final dinner as we sailed away for Basel, Switzerland. Before dinner, the crew came out for one last hurrah. I didn't know a crew could be as good as the one on board the Viking Tialfi. They added a personal touch at every chance, always wore a smile, always accommodated every request, and had my drink order and room number memorized by the second day. They deserve complete commendation for this past week. It's a tough life, far away from home for months at a time, and this crew knocked it out of the park. The ship was preparing to enter the final, tightest lock of the trip, so they closed down the sun deck for passenger safety. And with this last passage, we head to bed with a happy heart after an unforgettable week. It's disembarkation day, everyone's least favorite kind of day. We get one last look at our Tialfi before heading into Basel before our flight's home tomorrow. Viking does offer pre- and post-cruise excursions, but our personal schedules prohibited those. After touring Basel, my first time in Switzerland, we took the train down to the beautiful lakeside city of Lucerne. We enjoyed time on the river and took a boat tour of Lake Lucerne. At the end of the day, we headed back to Basel, albeit a bit delayed because of an unfortunate incident on the railroad tracks. Viking cruises certainly cater to an older population. One group we met on the cruise found out that the hard way. But we still felt we had the liberty to really make it our own, and if you're prepared and this is more your scene anyway, there's no age limit to having an absolute blast. River cruises especially are a fantastic way to explore small towns you never dreamed you'd visit and fall in love with them. That's certainly what we did here. I really hope you enjoyed this trip up the Rhine River with us. Make sure you like the video and leave a comment telling me your favorite stop along the way. Be sure to drop a subscription to support the channel and ensure you don't miss all that I have ready to share with the world. Until next time, happy sailing.